My
Consider
name's
this.
Alex.
In major
I hail
events,
from a
it's
fractured
often the
family
small details
raised
that
by
can
a
make or break
controlling
them.
mother and her meddling
Take,
sisters.
for instance, the 1986
Megan,
Challenger
the eldest,
disaster,
was
where
13
a cheap
years my
O-ring
senior,
led to the
with
loss
Anna
of
10
7
years
lives
older.
and hundreds of
I
millions of
suppose
dollars.
I was an unplanned
Similarly,
child,
a
blamed
tiny
for my
blood
parents'
clot, barely
separation.
visible under a
Dad
microscope,
left
can
in
be fatal by
1977
blocking
when I
blood
was
flow
5
to a
and never
critical part of the
returned.
brain.
Throughout my
Even a
childhood,
small
I
patch
faced
of ice on
bullying
the
at
road
school
can cause a
and at
vehicle
home.
to spin out
All
of
I
control and
craved was my
result in a
mother's
deadly
love,
crash.
a simple
The
gesture of
list goes on.
acceptance that never
Seemingly
came.
insignificant
Despite the
factors can have
challenges, I
devastating
excelled
consequences for
academically,
significant
dedicating
endeavors.
12 years to my
Marriage certainly
studies.
falls into the
Time
category of
passed,
important
and in
undertakings.
1993,
I, for one,
I found
hold my
myself at
marriage in high
Kingston
regard.
University in South London,
Married for just over
grateful
8
to
years
escape
to my
my
lovely
home
wife
life.
April.
It was
We
there I
have
met
2
Holly,
amazing
her
boys,
image
Chris
still
and
clear in
Charles.
my mind.
While I
She
didn't earn a
exuded
college
beauty and
degree,
confidence,
my skills as
while
a
I
mechanic
remained
have
shy
provided
and
us with a
introverted.
comfortable life in
Holly
a
was in
spacious
her
home.
final year of a
Despite
creative
the
writing
long
degree,
hours I put into my job,
contrasting with my
the
pursuit of a
financial
master's in
stability it
mechanical
brings makes it
engineering and
worthwhile.
design.
My marriage
As
has
I
always been
mentioned,
the highlight
I was
of my
too
life,
timid to
and I've
approach
worked
her, while she
diligently to
attracted
support my
attention
family.
from men effortlessly.
Unfortunately, it's often the small
Standing at
things
5
that can
feet 5
unravel
inches
such
with brown
significant
hair and
commitments.
captivating brown
In my
eyes,
case, it was
she
a tiny
possessed a
blood
beauty
vessel
that
in my
seemed
brain that
beyond
caused
my
the
reach.
downfall.
The men
Its
who pursued
proximity
her
to
were
another vessel
outgoing
led
and
to swelling,
popular. To
triggering
my
a
surprise,
debilitating migraine
one of
headache.
Holly's friends struck up a
I experienced
conversation
one
with
such
me at a
episode
party,
on a particularly
leading to
fateful
Holly's
day.
eventual
The
inclusion.
symptoms were familiar.
Despite my
Sensitivity
limited
to light,
experience with
escalating
women,
sounds,
my humility
and
and
unbearable
bashfulness
smells.
seemed to
The
attract
sudden
her.
onset of excruciating
Summoning the
pain
courage,
caught me off
I
guard.
asked her out.
Without
and
my
we began
Imitrex
dating.
inhaler,
I'm not
I had no
ashamed to
means
admit
to
she took my
alleviate the
pureness,
agony.
but
While
after
I had
about 6
pills on
months,
hand, they weren't as
rumors surfaced
effective
of
and
her
would take
involvement
time
with
to
other
ease the
men.
pain to a
Unable
manageable
to
level,
substantiate
rendering
the
me
claims,
unable to
I
work.
hesitated to confront her.
I stumbled into my
Holly
boss's
was a
office
spoiled
and delivered
child,
the grim
indulged
news.
by her
He
parents and
immediately
her sister
sprang into
Caroline,
action,
which
summoning his
strained our
secretary
relationship.
Penny and instructing
I
her to get
endured
me
her
home
entitled
safely,
behavior,
insisting
her
that I not
penchant for
drive,
creating
for
public
heaven's sake.
scenes,
Go
causing
now,
me
he urged.
embarrassment.
With Penny's
Despite my
assistance, my
friend's
boss
urging to
carefully
end the
guided me out of
relationship,
the office
I
and
found
down the
myself
hallway
in
towards
love,
the exit.
a feeling
Once
I had never
outside, Penny
experienced
helped me
before.
lean against the wall,
After
shielding my
graduation,
eyes from the
we
harsh
both
light
found
as she
jobs
made her way
and
to
a
her
flat
car.
outside
I kept
Southampton,
my
New
eyes
Hampshire.
shut tightly and
Her
pressed my
family
hands
ties
against my
drew us there,
temples,
as
trying
I
to
had
dull
long
the
severed
throbbing pain.
connections with mine.
As we drove,
We
my
married
vision
a year
blurred,
later,
and the light
welcoming
became
Sophie
unbearable,
into the world the
forcing
following
me to
year,
keep my eyes
and
shut.
Ava a
The
couple of
sounds
years
around
after.
me turned into an
Holly
overwhelming
relished motherhood,
buzz,
and
and the foul
everything
smell
seemed
made my
perfect
stomach
between us.
churn.
Over
Thankfully,
time,
Penny
I
knew the way to
advanced in
my
my
house,
career,
so I didn't need to
eventually
give
joining
directions.
Walker
It
Engineering
felt like
10
an
years ago.
eternity, but
The
eventually she
increased
pulled up
salary
outside
and
my home,
bonuses
helped
helped
me
us
out of the
save for a
car,
better
and
house.
guided me inside.
But like many
I
during
followed
the
her lead,
economic downturn
barely
of
able to walk on
2008,
my own.
it was a
Once in
tough
the
year.
kitchen, I instructed
Many
Penny to
lost their
retrieve her
jobs,
inhaler from
and
the
winning
refrigerator.
contracts became
She
harder,
placed it in my hand,
forcing us to
held
work
it steady
longer
as I
hours without
administered it
extra
into my
pay.
nose,
It
inhaling
was during
deeply
this
as the
time,
medication
with
entered
both
my
girls in
bloodstream.
school full time, that I
Then
discovered
I asked
Holly's
her to
affair
assist
with a
me to the
man
living
from our
room
old
adjacent to the
university.
kitchen and help me onto
Lost
the
in work,
sofa.
I
I
remained
requested that she
unaware
draw
until
the
it was too
blinds
late.
and turn off all the lights,
Initially
which she
unsure of the
promptly
identity
did.
of her lover,
After
Toby
a few minutes,
suspected
I
a
could already
classmate who
sense
had
some
moved
relief
nearby.
creeping in. So I
Confronting
assured
Holly
Penny
proved
that she could
futile,
leave.
as she laughed
Gratefully,
off my
I thanked her for her
concerns,
help,
though I
and welcomed
sensed
the
her
peace and
deception.
quiet as she departed.
Nonetheless, my
I must have
stable
drifted
job
off
and
to sleep
income put
quickly
me
as
in a
the
good
pain
position
eased,
to buy a nice
because
house.
I woke later to the sound
Holly
of voices.
constantly pushed me
The
to buy
room
a
was
house that
shrouded in
reflected our
darkness,
status,
signaling that
whatever
it was
that meant.
likely later in the day when
Despite
I
my
recalled my
reservations,
surroundings.
I agreed,
Instantly, I
and we
realized
purchased
the pain
a lovely
had vanished,
detached
leaving me
5-bedroom
feeling
house in
sore but
Southampton.
relieved from the remnants
It was
of
a
the
buyer's
migraine.
market,
Taking
so we
a moment
snagged
to
a
sit
good
up
deal,
cautiously,
despite the
I
slightly high
waited,
mortgage.
half expecting
One
the
thing I
pain to
did,
return,
which was
but
unusual
it
for
didn't.
me, was
She
to
had
open a
left,
new savings
thank
account
God.
in my name only.
In the dimness,
I only
I
deposited
recognized the
my
voices
share
of
of the
my
bonus
wife,
into
April,
it,
and her neighbor
and
friend
since I
Robin.
handled all finances
It seemed they
and
were
banking
unaware
as
of
the
my
sole
presence,
breadwinner,
given the
I
darkness and
doubt
the
Holly
still-off
even knew
lights.
about it, even
Perhaps
if I
April
waved the
assumed
receipts
I
in
was
front of her.
resting after coming home
Looking
early,
back,
though my
this turned
car
out to be
wasn't
one one of
parked
the
in the
smartest
driveway.
things I could have done.
She probably
I
hadn't
needed some
realized I was
security
here at all.
because I wasn't sure
Maybe
if
I
Holly
could
planned to
surprise them
leave me
both.
if her old flame
I rose
returned.
quietly, planning to
After
sneak
that
to the
incident,
door and then
Things
make my
seemed to
presence
return to
known.
normal, and
But
my
as I
daughters
tuned into their
remained my top
conversation,
priority.
Come on, April.
I supported
How
their
was it?
education
Was it
and
as
spent
good as
ample
before?
time with them on
Give me the
weekends,
details, girl.
taking them to
It was
various
amazing.
activities like
I
dance
felt
classes,
like I was in heaven.
concerts,
Even
and
better
the
than
zoo.
last time, I swear.
Holly always
Almost
seemed too
mind-blowing.
preoccupied with
The best
her outings
physical
with her
engaging
indulgent
ever.
and idle friends.
Better than with Chris?
I seldom
Better than your
socialized
husband?
with other
Hell
husbands.
yes.
But we all
I
seemed to
adore
be
Chris,
somewhat
but he never
controlled
made
by
me
our
feel like
wives
that.
to varying
Never.
degrees.
I wouldn't let him do
My
those
friends
things.
would tease
He'd
me
think
with
I'm
the
a
song
strumpet.
Under My
But
Thumb
Carl,
by the Rolling Stones.
he knows, and I
whenever
like
I
it.
had to cancel plans
Can't
for
wait
what
for next
Holly
time.
wanted. Even
Aren't
at
you
work,
afraid Chris
my
will find
colleagues
out?
would make
Have you
comments about
considered
my
the
marital
consequences?
situation,
Chris will
especially
never know.
Holly's
And
dominance
even if he
over
did,
me.
so what?
It wasn't until a
He's
few
too
months
nice to
ago
leave me.
that everything
He
came
wouldn't
to
risk
a head.
losing the kids.
Ava had just
I'd
left
take
for
them in a
university,
heartbeat with a good
leaving
lawyer.
Holly and me alone for
This
the
isn't
first
like you,
time
April.
in 18
It's
years.
worrying. I think you're
Both our
making a big
daughters were
mistake.
attending our old alma
I
matter.
love Chris.
As
truly.
I helped Ava settle
But I won't
into her
give up
new
what I have
apartment
with
with her
Carl.
sister,
I
she
want
turned to
both.
me and
The
questioned
passion
why
with
I was
Carl
still
and the
with their
love
mother,
with Chris. I need
I was taken
both,
aback,
and I won't
as
let
Ava
go.
had always been
I've had my
quiet,
fill.
like her old man.
Though the migraine
I
subsided,
heard she's
the
fooling
ache in
around
my
with
heart
Henry
was
Walker
far
at your
worse.
company.
It
Ava
gripped
said,
me so tightly
tears
that my
welling up in her
stomach
eyes.
knotted, and
It
each
was
breath
news to
felt
me,
like a struggle.
but I wasn't shocked.
A ringing filled my
Over the
ears,
years,
and my pulse
I could have
thundered in my
investigated
head.
her affairs,
Fear
but refrained,
surged through me as if a
fearing
heart
it would
attack
break up the
loomed,
family
and I clung
and
to the
cause my
doorframe
daughters to
until some
resent me,
semblance of
just
calm
as my
returned to my
sisters
body.
did my dad.
Still, I
I
kept my presence
tolerated her
hidden, but with
infidelity
each returning
because I
moment of
couldn't bear to
control,
lose what we
fury
had
simmered
created,
within me,
despite
threatening
still
to
loving
boil
her.
over. With
This
resolve, I
revelation had
straightened and
several
stepped into
effects
the
on me.
illuminated kitchen,
Firstly,
shattering
it
the
made
silence.
me realize the
Robin
depth
was
of
the
my
first to
daughter's
notice me,
animosity
her eyes
towards their
widening in
mother,
shock as
far
she
greater
fell
than I had
silent.
imagined.
April,
Secondly,
catching
it
Robin's
brought up
reaction,
old
turned to
feelings
see
from
me,
my
her
upbringing
expression
and how
shifting
they
from
influenced
contentment
my
to
weaknesses.
astonishment, then
Finally,
to dread, and
I
finally to
realized
anger,
I was
all
the
in an
subject of
instant.
gossip and ridicule
Pushing her
at
chair
work,
back, April rose to
particularly
confront
from
me.
Henry Walker,
"How much
who
did you hear?
coincidentally
Why
was
were
the
you
nephew
lurking and
of the
spying
owner
on me?"
and the
she
man
demanded.
betraying me.
I met
I
her
felt
gaze in
utterly
silence,
lost,
then glanced at
unable to
Robin, who
continue
wasted no
enduring
time
this
in excusing
situation,
herself.
especially now that
"I
my
need to
youngest
go.
daughter was
Pete
aware
and I
of the
can take care of the
mockery from
boys if you
Holly.
need time.
I knew I
I'll
had
call
to
you
confront
later,"
her.
she said
My
before
heart
hurrying
raced
out
as I
the
sat
side
at the
door.
kitchen table,
I watched her
waiting for
departure
Holly's
wordlessly.
return. When she
Left alone,
finally
I turned
appeared,
my attention
I
back
found
to
myself
April,
unable to speak
once the woman I
again.
cherished
She
unconditionally
merely
for
looked at
8
me with what
blissful
seemed like
years.
apathy and
8
contempt
years I thought
as
would
she
stretch
unpacked
into
her
eternity,
bags.
where we'd grow old
Eventually,
together.
I gathered the
But
courage to
tonight,
speak.
that
I
expectation
questioned Holly
shattered.
about the nature of her
There
relationship
would be no
with someone
forever
else.
for us.
She replied that she
April
wouldn't
ended it all
classify
tonight.
it as an affair,
Where are the
insisting it
boys?
wasn't that significant.
What were you up to while you were
I felt
having
a
your
mixture
fun
of
with your
shock
lover?
and disgust,
Did you even think
waiting
about
for her
them,
to
or
explain
were
how
you
her
too busy
actions could be
enjoying yourself
justified.
with someone else while
She
leaving them
expressed her
unattended?
admiration for me as a provider and
Now,
a friend,
I'm
but
composed
admitted
and
there were
collected.
certain needs I
The
couldn't
pain
fulfill.
still lingers,
I
sharp
was
and
dismayed
deep.
by her straightforward
It'll take a
admission
while for it to
and asked
ease.
if it meant she was
April's
cheating
face
on me.
twisted with anger,
Holly
masking her
clarified that
beauty
it was
with
only
ugliness.
her body involved,
Perhaps that mask
not
was
her
the real
heart or
April,
mind.
hidden beneath the
Stunned
surface
by
all
her
along.
audacious
She
admission,
retorted,
I
"The
was
boys
left
are with
speechless.
Carly.
She
Robin and I went
nonchalantly
shopping,
mentioned
and Pete
exploring
watched over them,
relationships with younger
and I
men.
wasn't with anyone else.
Startled,
just
I
Robin."
raised my voice.
With that statement, she
questioning
seemed
her
to feel
actions.
victorious.
Holly cautioned
The anger
me not
on her
to
face
shout,
morphed into
and despite
satisfaction.
admitting to being involved
Finally
with 2 other
realizing
men,
I'd been at home,
she
she
expected
inquired,
my silence.
"What are you doing here?
She threatened
Where's
me
your
with
car?
the choice of accepting
And why
her
were you
terms
sitting in the
or
dark?
risking her
Were you
departure
spying
to
on
be
me?
with someone else.
Trying to catch me in the act?"
I remained silent.
I came home early with a
hoping she would
terrible
notice the
migraine.
pain on my
George
face,
asked Penny to drive me home
attempting
because
to
I couldn't
justify
handle the
her
light.
actions.
I took my
She claimed that
Imitrex
such
and fell
behavior
asleep.
was common among her
I've
friends
been here ever
and
since.
could even improve a marriage.
A queasiness churned
I
in my
was
stomach,
appalled by her
and a
attempt
strong
to use
urge
her
to
friend's
vomit
actions
surged
as a
through me.
justification.
I rose and hurried to the
Considering it
bathroom.
contemptible and
Your
self-centered,
voices woke me, and
challenging
what I
her
heard
with
made
the
me
idea
sick.
of having
I
another
need the
woman,
bathroom.
she laughed off
With
the
those
suggestion,
words, I dashed to the
mocking my
bathroom,
ability
attempting to
to
expel
connect
the
with other
contents
women.
of my stomach.
She confidently
It wasn't
stated that
entirely
our
successful,
relationship would
but my
continue
body
on her
certainly tried
terms,
its best.
warning me
I
not to
settled
ruin
onto
a
the
good
bathroom
thing.
floor, finding
In
relief
reality,
as my body
she was
gradually relaxed
Throughout our
against the cool
22-year
porcelain.
relationship,
Finally,
I had
my
displayed
stomach calmed,
unwavering
and my
loyalty
breathing
and
steady.
compliance with her
The
wishes.
sweat on my face
Now,
dried as the
everyone
nausea
knew I was
faded
being
away.
betrayed,
After a
tarnishing
few
my
moments, I
reputation
rose,
among friends and
splashing
colleagues.
water on my face
The
and
next
rinsing
morning,
out my
I
mouth.
entered my office and was
Once the
met by
trembling
Henry Walker,
subsided and
the
I
man
regained some
involved with my
composure,
wife.
I
With a
returned to the
smirk,
kitchen,
he
where
inquired
April
about
sat
Alex's
gazing out the
well-being,
window.
his smug expression
"I'm going to
fueling my
fetch the boys
frustration.
and put
I
them
chose
to bed
remain
tonight."
silent.
Brushing
Near the coffee
past her,
machine,
I exited,
heard laughter
making my
from
way
some
next
men.
door to the Andersons.
Despite their amusement,
Pete and
I
Robin
continued
Anderson
past
were not
them,
only our
feeling
neighbors, but
exposed.
also our closest
Even
friends.
Olivia, the boss's
We had shared
secretary,
countless
seemed to
evenings
find my
together,
situation
chatting and
amusing.
enjoying drinks.
Seated at my desk,
Best
I
friends.
pondered the rough
I
start to
bitterly
my day,
mused.
feeling
wondered what
ridiculed
Pete
both
knew.
at work and home.
I should have asked.
Despite my
Knocking
efforts
on
to
their
focus,
back door,
my
I entered
anger
to find
lingered.
Robin seated
I
at the
resolved
kitchen
to delve
table,
into my father's
engaged
background,
in conversation with her
knowing
husband.
only his birthplace
I
and
sensed she
departure
had told
at
him.
38 in 1977.
He looked up with pity in his eyes as I
Searching
entered,
family
while
history
Robin
sites for
appeared
Cambridgeshire,
visibly uneasy.
I found several
"I've come to get
potential
the
matches.
boys. Are they
Anticipating
ready to
his
head
passing
home?"
before my university years,
I bypassed
I narrowed
Pete,
it down
heading
to
to the
3
living room where I
options
presumed
and
the boys
posted
were with
inquiries on
Carly, their
genealogy
teenage daughter.
websites.
They were huddled
Lost
over
in
a
thought,
puzzle,
my
Carly
boss,
watching
Jack,
over them.
summoned me to his office.
As I entered, she
Jack,
greeted me with a
a
smile.
successful but morally
"Hey, Mr.
questionable
Phillips, are
man,
you here for
wanted
them?"
to talk.
Upon my nod,
Despite
she said,
considering leaving
"I'll grab
due
their
to
jackets."
his behavior, his
I
persuasion
stood there
and high
watching
pay
them,
kept me.
overwhelmed by a
I
wave of
discovered his
sadness.
affair with his
These
secretary
scenes,
Olivia,
once filled with everyday
unbeknownst to
joy,
his third
now
wife.
bore the mark of
He
infidelity.
plainly mentioned
The
hearing
innocence
rumors
of
about my
family life
wife's
shattered by
infidelity.
the selfishness
I
of
retorted,
adults. In
mentioning
many
her
cases,
involvement with my nephew.
irreparably so.
He
This
acknowledged
felt
the
like
behavior,
one of those times.
chuckling about the family
"Thanks,
trait
Carly.
of being cads.
I'll be in the
leaving
kitchen
me
when
in
they're ready."
silence. The
I
focus
returned to the
shifted
kitchen,
to business.
where Petey and Robin
He
remained
emphasized
seated.
the importance
I
of
glanced
family
at Robin, then
and
at
warned
Petey.
that if the
"Did
personal
you both
issues
know?
affected the
Were
business,
you aware she cheated
I might
on
have
me?
to leave the company.
Pete, did it bring
It
you
was
some
delivered like
twisted
a strict teacher
satisfaction
scolding a
knowing while we
child.
were together?
I
Did
bit
it give
my
you
lip,
some sick thrill?
noticing Olivia, his
My anger
eager
fueled my
secretary,
words,
lingering
harsher
by the
than
door,
necessary.
likely gathering
But I needed
information to
answers
share
from
with
my
her
dear
friends.
friends.
As
I
I
should have
turned to
sensed
exit,
something.
I couldn't help but
Pete
wonder
shot a glance
why
at Robin,
a young woman
his
like
anger
her
evident,
would involve
before
herself with
replying,
an older
"I
man
swear,
like Jack
buddy,
Walker.
I had no clue.
Passing by
If
her,
I had known, I'd
I
have
heard
told you
more
right
snickering,
away. I
prompting
can't
me to
believe
lower
my wife
head
knew and
and
kept
walk
it from
away.
me. It's
As the door
despicable.
closed
You don't
behind
deserve
me,
this. I
laughter
won't
erupted,
apologize to her, but I'm
clearly
here for you
directed
if
at
you
my
need me."
expense.
His gaze hardened
Returning
as he
to my
looked at his
office,
wife.
I realized my
believed
presence
him.
there
He would have
served no
confided
purpose.
in me if he had known.
I had funded my
so
daughter's
that was
education,
Robin and April's secret.
yet now I was
Thank you,
essentially
Robin,
financing
I
my wife's
sneered.
infidelities.
Thanks for making me a
I was a
laughing
simple
stock.
guy who
A
enjoyed his
betrayed
gadgets,
man.
but could
A
live
fool
without
who didn't need to
extravagances.
know his wife was
The
fooling
majority of
around
my
with another
expenses
guy.
went toward
I hope that
Holly's
sits well with you,
indulgences,
knowing what
leaving
you
me
knew while
questioning
thinking
my
of me.
happiness.
I
It was
turned
my
as I
haven
noticed
for
Carly
creativity
approaching,
and success.
hastily putting on a
I
smile
had
as
designed
the
many
boys
of the parts
emerged,
being
each
produced
clutching
and
a
sold
cookie.
here.
I
and I was
silently
confident
prayed
I could
Carly
find
hadn't
employment
overheard my
elsewhere.
last words,
They saw
but
me
the
as
look
weak,
on her face
and they weren't
suggested
wrong.
otherwise.
I wasn't one to
This
stir up
marked the
trouble.
last time
I was
Robin would
content
spend with
being
my
good old
boys.
Alex, the
That much I
submissive
vowed.
engineer.
I didn't know how,
Glancing
but
at my
I'd figure it
screensaver
out.
of the family vacation,
We came in
I
through the
clicked on
back
my
door,
email.
and the boys dashed
To my
upstairs
surprise,
to change for
there
dinner.
was a message
I
waiting
crossed
from
the
a
empty
woman
kitchen
named
into the
Jennifer
dimly lit
Holmes
living room
from
where
the
April
Cambridge
sat,
Genealogy
keeping the
Committee.
room shadowed,
Astonished
much like
by
the
the quick
secrets she
response,
harbored.
I read the message,
Turning
and
on a
was
nearby
amazed.
lamp and drawing back the
Jennifer
curtains,
had
I
read my
illuminated the
inquiry
space,
about my dad,
revealing
and
shadows
had
that hinted at
connected
the
with a woman
concealed
claiming to
truths
be his
my
niece,
once loving wife
Rachel
held.
Murray, my
April
cousin.
looked dreadful.
I promptly
Tear-streaked
replied
eyes,
with my
pallid
contact
complexion,
information,
slouched
hoping to hear
shoulders.
from Rachel soon.
All the defiance had melted
Leaving
away,
work brought some
leaving
relief,
behind the
and
fearful
upon
woman I
arriving home,
anticipated.
Holly greeted
Yet
me
it
with
felt
a
too
smile
late for
while
such a
cooking dinner.
transformation.
Though I
Instead of
distanced
offering
myself
solace, her
initially,
newfound
I
vulnerability
returned for the meal.
disgusted me. Was
She
she
softly
truly
asked if
remorseful
we
now,
could
or
discuss
simply
the previous
scared?
night,
I
to
couldn't
which I
believe such a
responded that
drastic
it seemed
change
there
in
was
mere
little left
minutes.
to discuss.
No,
as she
this
had
was
made
the
her
opening
stance
salvo
clear.
in our power struggle.
In response,
A
she
deceitful
almost
wife
pleaded,
concealing her
acknowledging
infidelity.
my qualities
Her
as a
face
husband,
betrayed
and
not
requesting
regret,
that
but
I not
deception
deny her
and
anything.
guile.
I
I
questioned
confronted
her
her,
betrayal
demanding,
and
"Who is
humiliation,
he? What does he
seeking an
offer
honest
that I
answer.
don't?" She remained
Flustered,
silent until
she
I was
shrugged,
certain she wouldn't
unable to
respond.
provide a
As I
satisfactory
turned to leave,
response.
she finally spoke.
Growing weary of her
His
selfishness,
identity doesn't
I
matter.
reflected on my
It's not
efforts
about
to
you,
make her
Chris.
happy.
I'm deeply sorry
Despite
you found
working
out like
long
this.
hours to meet
I
our
never
financial
intended to
needs
hurt
and
you.
desires,
I never
I
wanted
only
you to
received
discover this.
disrespect and mockery.
I'm truly sorry.
I even drove an
You
older
heard my
car so she
conversation
could
with
have
Robin.
a newer one.
Please, you
She
must
acknowledged
understand.
having
It's
needs
funny.
that I couldn't
No
fulfill,
apologies for the act.
and presented
no
an
remorse for
ultimatum.
its occurrence.
Accept it,
Just
as
regret
she
for being
assumed I
caught
would.
and you learning
or
the
she would
truth.
seek
I shook
satisfaction
my
with a
head,
younger
sinking
man.
into the plush
I
armchair she
interjected,
gifted me on our 5th
mentioning Henry
anniversary.
Walker's name,
I
stating
once
that
cherished
everyone
it, but
knew
now
he
it was
was
just
involved
furniture.
with her.
Please let
She
me
admitted
explain.
to the
Our story
involvement,
doesn't have to end here.
bluntly revealing
We can
that he was
salvage what we
essentially
had.
my boss.
If only
and
you
would
try to
inherit the
understand, we
company.
could move forward.
She outlined the
She pleaded
arrangement.
with me,
He
a familiar
fulfilled her needs
expression
in
when she
bed,
desired something
and if I didn't
disagreed
comply
with.
and accept,
Can you
she would
promise it's
leave
over?
me,
That
and
you'll
he
never
would
see him
provide
again?
everything else she wanted and
I
needed.
maintained a calm tone,
As usual,
but my body
I said
tensed,
nothing and
hands
simply
gripping the
rose from
chair's
my
arms
seat,
tightly for
retreating
control.
to my study.
April met my
Tears
gaze with
flowed,
tear-filled
and I
eyes, but
wished to
offered
be
no
anywhere
reply.
but here.
That silence
As
spoke
the phone rang,
volumes.
I
She
answered
wouldn't
to hear an
cease.
unfamiliar
I
voice
heard her
on the
words
other
to
end.
Robin.
It was
She
Rachel.
sought both paths
We
and
conversed
wouldn't
for
let
about
me
an
hinder
hour,
her.
and when I
She
hung
wasn't
up,
willing to
everything
relinquish
else
him and
faded
sought my
from my
approval.
mind, and I wore a huge
I believe
smile.
this is your decision.
Rachel was
After
thrilled
dinner,
that I
I'll
decided
tuck
to
the boys
explore
in,
my father's
then we can
past
explore our
and had
options.
much to share.
Tomorrow, I'll
I
pack my
discovered that my
belongings and
mother
stay
had
with my
indeed
brother.
forced my father out of the
Rising,
house,
I exited
deceiving
to the
me throughout
kitchen,
my
a
childhood.
refuge amidst turmoil.
Sadly,
It's
he
odd
passed
how the
away in
kitchen becomes a
1983 when I
sanctuary
was
in
just
dire
11.
times.
He
Strange
succumbed to
thoughts
drinks
surface when
poisoning,
your world
and
crumbles.
my grandmother always
It's even
blamed my
stranger
mother
to
for
realize
his
your
behavior
world is crumbling.
and mental state.
April busied herself
Rachel
with dinner
informed
while
me
I
that
spent
after leaving
quality
us,
time with
he
the
yearned
boys
to
in the
reconnect
playroom.
with me, but was
Engrossed in their
prevented from
game,
doing so.
April called us
We
for
arranged
dinner,
to meet over the
prompting a noisy
weekend at her home
transition
in
as I
Cambridge.
ushered the boys
I
to
was
the bathroom
excited,
to wash up.
knowing the break would be
Mundane
beneficial.
tasks and
The
anchor
remainder
in
of the week
chaos.
dragged on.
Dinner was lively.
Things at home
The
remained
boys,
unchanged.
full of energy,
and
relished
at work,
the meal and
I
each
was
other's
continually
company.
ridiculed behind
contrasting
back.
sharply with their subdued
Henry and his
parents
friends
lost
found it
in
amusing
thought
to hang
over
a pair of
looming
underwear on my
decisions.
office door.
The innocence of
I
childhood
glanced at
slipping
Olivia,
away.
but she
Why do
remained
kids yearn
silent.
to grow up?
Enclosed in the
They
underwear
perceive
was a
adult
post-it
freedom
note
as
that read,
boundless,
"Please
unaware
return
of
to
the
your wife."
consequences and
I
responsibilities.
was shattered. I sat
Adults,
at my desk
however,
and wept once again
understand
that
better.
day.
Yet
I
some
wanted to blame
disregard
everyone
limits
but
and
myself. I
consequences.
couldn't wait.
Like April.
When Saturday came, I informed
Post-dinner,
Holly that I
April
was
cleaned the
visiting a
kitchen
friend in
while I
London,
escorted the
and she
boys to
seemed
bed.
indifferent to my
We
plans.
shared stories until
I
they settled
suspected she
down,
would be unfaithful,
drifting into slumber
so
where
being
dreams
away
knew no
made
bounds.
it easier for her.
My heart ached as I watched,
The journey to
knowing
Cambridge
this
proved
too must
stressful,
end.
and I arrived
Downstairs,
at Rachel's
I
house an
sank into
hour
a chair,
later than
grasping
expected.
for stability.
Surprisingly,
My world slipped
she
away
welcomed
beyond
me
my
with
control.
the warmest hug I'd received
Though I
in
loved
years,
April deeply,
seemingly
her words
unfazed by
echoed
the
in my
delay.
mind.
I met her
He never
husband
made
Greg
me
and their
feel this
children
way.
Grace and William,
And I'm his strumpet.
after which we dove into
There was no
discussions
turning
about
back
my
from those
father and
words.
newfound
As I
family.
pondered the possibilities,
Rachel's warm
I
and
felt the love
selfless
within
demeanor
me
was evident
extinguish.
as she and Greg
April entered
conversed
and took a seat.
animatedly, often
We need to
finishing
talk.
each other's
I
sentences,
understand you're upset,
eager to
but
share
you
our
must
family
grasp my
story.
perspective.
Joined
What
by
I share with
David and
Carl is
Lucy
purely
Price,
physical
my
and the
cousin and
allure of
Rachel's
novelty.
brother, We
I
bonded well,
anticipate it'll fade
exchanging
soon, but
insights about my
currently
father
I
and
can't
family.
seem to break away.
After lunch,
It's
we
what
took a short
stimulates
trip,
me, but it
affording
doesn't
me time
affect
to
my love
reflect.
for you.
Upon
He's
our
merely a
return,
distraction,
David
nothing
and
more.
I discussed our
It'll
jobs
end
and
soon,
family
and we can
lives.
return to how things
And for
were.
some reason,
You just
I
have to
found
let it run
myself
its
confiding
course.
in my new cousins.
Her words flowed,
They
but I
offered
struggled to
unwavering support,
comprehend.
advising me not to tolerate my current situation.
I allow this
Leaving Cambridge,
Is
I
she
felt a
irrational
renewed
or just
perspective.
deluded?
Having
Regardless,
endured
it must
numerous
cease.
lies and mistreatment,
Clearly, you're the
the
one failing to
kindness and
grasp
honesty
reality.
shown by
There's
my
no
newfound
us.
family gave me hope.
There's no we. It's
I
just you and
realized
him.
I needed to reclaim
That's all that
happiness,
remains.
not only for
It's
myself,
over between us.
but also for my
Finished.
daughters, friends,
Done.
and
This
this
isn't
new
up for
family.
negotiation, and I won't
Returning
budge.
home at 8
You
p.m.,
need to understand
I found
this.
Holly getting ready to go
Despite
out.
8 years of
I
marriage,
inquired
you
about
can't
her
possibly
plans,
believe
and
I'd
she
condone
replied
your
that she was
affair.
going out with her friends.
But Chris,
Catching
I
her
love
off
you.
guard, I
You're the
mentioned
only
her
man
second
I've ever
paramour,
loved.
Max.
I don't even like
She
Carl.
pleaded for me to stop bringing
Please
it up,
try to understand.
seemingly indifferent
me
to my
time.
feelings.
Please,
I
baby,
urged
for
her
the
to
sake of
stop
our
and be my
marriage and
wife.
family, give me
Dismissing
time.
my concerns,
Take
she
all the
insisted
time you
that
need.
she was and
Tomorrow I'll
always would
contact
be
a
my
lawyer
wife.
and we'll divide
She
everything
asked
equally.
me not to deny her
I
pleasures,
don't want to hurt you like
promising
you
to
hurt
make
me.
life easy for
I
me,
just want this to
and
end
assured
now.
she would be back by midnight.
Emotionally drained,
Ignoring
I
my
yearned
pleas,
to
she
retire to
continued
bed,
to threaten,
seeking respite
attempting
from
to
the
embrace
heartache.
me as I turned
My
away.
headache had subsided,
Unfazed,
but the anguish
she grabbed her
remained.
Prada handbag
Yet,
and headed for the
I wasn't
door.
prepared for her next words.
Asserting my position as
Then
her husband,
damn you,
I
no
sternly
divorce.
asked her not to
I'll fight
proceed
you
with
every
her
step of the
plans.
way and take
She
everything you
paused,
have.
looking
I'll
at me
ensure
as
you
if
don't get
questioning
custody
my
of the
authority
boys, and I'll
before
restrict your
bursting into
visitation
laughter.
rights in every way
Mockingly,
possible.
she
If
asked
you don't
what
comply,
I would do,
you'll lose
asserting
everything,
that I would never
and
have
I'll
the
still
courage
have
to
Carl.
leave her,
You can't
and
stop
predicting
me.
that I would always
Remember
be
that.
there for her.
I absorbed her threat.
Crestfallen, I dropped
Then
my
it struck
head,
me that this marriage
realizing
had been
I had
over
been a
long
fool
ago.
for far too long.
The level of anger
catering
and
to her
disrespect
selfishness
wasn't
while
abrupt.
neglecting my
It was
own
calculated and
needs.
deliberate.
It was time to end
She never
the charade
fretted over
and
hurting
make
me.
plans for
If she
change.
had, she
I
wouldn't have
wasted no
embarked on
time
this
in
path.
taking action.
She would have terminated
Actually,
it beforehand.
I began while she was out
Instead,
with Henry or
she
Max,
anticipated my
maybe
discovery.
both together.
Rather than
That's
ending
likely
her affair,
what she meant
she
by
opted
indulging
to
in her
inflict
desires and
maximum
having
pain
it all.
upon me.
My thoughts
Love had
fueled
no
my
place
anger,
here,
causing
only
me
greed
to lose focus.
and the urge to degrade me.
I needed to find a way to
As my anger
eradicate any
simmered,
remaining
I saw her
affection I
face
held
register
for her,
that she had gone
and
too
I
far.
believe I found a
Her
solution.
expression, warped
I
by her
located the
venomous
box
words,
containing a
shifted
specific
from
picture of
contentment
my
to
mom
fear.
and sisters,
My
the
words
only
followed.
one I had.
I have
Though
one thing to
skeptical,
say, April.
I cut out
When
a
you
picture
corner
of
a
Holly's
rat, it
face and
fights
pasted
back.
it next to
It'll
them.
fight to the bitter
With
end
no
if you
love
deny
left
it
for
any
them,
chance of escape.
adding Holly's
You should have
smirking
known
face
that
to the
before
picture
pushing me.
might just
But now
sever
you've
my
done
emotional
it, and you'll pay
ties.
the price.
Placing it on
Please,
my
Chris,
study
I
desk
don't want
around
this, but I'm left with
12:45
no
a.m.,
choice.
I
I love
completed
you,
the task.
and will do anything to
I had
keep
mostly
you from leaving.
devised my
If
short-term
you don't
plans,
understand and
even though
accept this, I'll
executing
fight
them
you.
might take a few
You'll
weeks.
have no option but to stay with me.
Fortunately,
I know
had
you.
the luxury of
You
time,
love me and the boys
as Holly
too much
wasn't
to leave.
anticipating my departure.
I know you, Chris.
Though
You'll
uncertain
stay.
and requiring
Goodbye,
assistance,
April.
I
Let
had
the boys
convinced
know I'll see
myself
them
by
when I
then to
can.
follow through.
I'll gather some belongings
I heard
and leave.
someone entering
I'll
clumsily
retrieve the
through
rest
the door,
later when we can arrange
and
a
peeking
time.
out the window, I
Upstairs,
witnessed Henry
I hastily
Walker's
packed
departure.
a bag for a day or so.
As I heard
Just
her
essentials
ascending
from
the
the
stairs,
bathroom, a
I
few changes
hastily
of
cleared
clothes.
my browsing
Not
history,
much after 8
resolving
years
to
of
use
marriage.
incognito
All that
mode
remained were
henceforth.
bitter memories.
After she
But I
retired
had
to our
two
bedroom,
wonderful sons,
I descended the
and that was
stairs
my
to brew
focus
some
now.
coffee.
Descending,
Reflecting on my
I found
future
April
away
seated
from
by
here,
the kitchen door.
especially without my
Evidently,
daughters,
she was
I
prepared to
found it
try
tolerable.
again. Chris, please
Deciding to
reconsider. I'm
relocate
begging
closer
you.
to my daughters come Monday
There's no
morning,
need.
I headed
Promise
to
me
work
you'll end
resolved not
things
to
with him.
exert myself any
You'll never
longer.
see him again. Just say
Unperturbed
it, and
by
maybe
the
there's
snide
hope.
remarks and laughter
I
directed
can't.
at me,
I just
I
can't.
arranged a bank
Please.
meeting for 1 p.m.,
I pushed past her,
utilizing the
fighting
time
the urge
before
to
to
strike
review
her
my
with all my might.
finances. Though
But
a
I knew
gamble,
controlling the anger
if
inside
successful
wouldn't be
and with
easy.
the right support,
So I
I'd
restrained
emerge
myself.
relatively unscathed.
I'll visit in the
The
evenings
meeting
after work
proceeded
so
as
the
planned,
boys won't notice anything
allowing
right
me to
away.
close my savings account
I swung
and
open the
remove
door
my
and
name
stepped
from our joint
outside.
account.
It slammed
With a
shut
tidy
behind me
sum
as
in
I
hand,
tossed my
I
bag
shut
into
down
the
the
back
savings
seat and
account
climbed
for
into my
cash.
truck.
En
Backing
route
out of
back
the
to the
garage, I
office,
dialed
I
Clyde, my
stopped
brother,
at a
on my
PC
cell
World,
phone.
purchasing
He
2
lived about
digital
10
voice
miles away.
recorders, a
Ever
500
since his
GB
wife left with her
USB
boyfriend 2
3.0
years
tough
ago.
drive,
He'd been
and a
living
new
alone,
PC hard
clueless
drive.
about her whereabouts
Upon
and
returning,
indifferent to
I
her
commenced
absence.
accessing the company's
Despite
private
not
customer
divorcing,
files,
Clyde
a
refused to let it
task
hold
that
him
took me an
back.
hour to crack
He'd
Jack's
become
password.
quite the drinker, often
Ironically,
indulging with
his
his
wife's
buddies
name
almost every night.
and his 6-digit birthday.
We discussed it, but Clyde never
With the
changed his
necessary
ways.
access secured,
He rarely got
I
drunk,
downloaded
though.
all the
He was
files
just
to the drive,
usually high.
along with my
Perhaps he
plans
was
and
trying to
designs
bury
for
memories.
the energy-efficient
That was my
hydraulic
take, at
pump
least.
system,
He listened
positioning the
as I
company for
explained
continued
and instructed
success.
me to head over.
We
He'd be home
manufactured
later.
pumps for air conditioning
So
units,
I drove to his place,
heavy machinery,
retrieved the spare key
and
from
even
under
for
the
the
flower
dairy
pot on the
industry.
porch and let
After
myself
clearing
in.
my PC history,
Everything was immaculate,
including all
as
plans
always.
and work, I shut
Clyde
it
was
down,
far from messy.
swapped out
He was
the hard
compulsively
drive for a
tidy.
new one,
Always
packed
had
everything
been.
in my bag,
It offered a sense
and
of solace
reinstalled
to see
Windows.
that despite my life
The remainder
crumbling,
of the day was
his
spent
remained
researching
unchanged.
competitors on my phone
I grabbed
and
a few
browsing
beers from the
engineering
fridge and
jobs in the
settled
South
in,
London,
just as
Surrey
he'd
area
advised.
on Monster.
By the
before
time he
calling it a
returned,
day.
I was pleasantly
That
intoxicated.
evening, following
I fetched
another
another beer
quiet
from
dinner,
the store and
I
continued
retired
drinking.
to my study.
When Clyde arrived, I
Discovering
simply
that a
informed
major
him of the fight with
competitor,
April,
which had
and he
struggled
joined
during
in,
the
drinking the
financial
remainder of
downturn,
his beer to keep me
sought
in
a
check.
mechanical
He
engineer for
assured me of
basic
his support,
design and shop floor
emphasizing our bond as
management,
brothers.
intrigued me.
The next morning, I
While not
awoke with a
precisely
punishing
what I
hangover and a
desired, it
pounding
was
headache.
close.
My excessive
Despite the
drinking was
10,000
solely
pounds
my
lower
doing.
salary offer compared
Despite
to
having
my current
reasons,
one,
it was no
I
excuse.
promptly emailed them
I
my
stumbled
CV.
into the shower, letting the
To
cold
maintain
water wash
appearances
away the
with Holly,
remnants of
I
intoxicant
opted to
in my
sleep in
system.
our marital bed
Staying
that
drunk
night.
serves no
However,
purpose.
I
I
ensured
searched
to
for
feign
Clyde
sleep
and found a
when she
note
entered.
indicating he was
Her
at
touch
work
made
and
me
would
feel
report
nauseous,
me, which
but oddly,
wasn't
it
unexpected
pleased me
since
to
we both
react
had
this
Saturday
way.
shifts.
I was growing
Clyde and I were
repulsed by
employed
her,
by a
which would
company
aid
renting
me in the
heavy
long
construction equipment to
run. The
major
next
contractors
day, a
statewide.
surprised Robert
Our
Williams from
reputation as
Sutton
top-notch
Hydraulics
mechanics
called,
drew customers
expressing
from far and
disbelief
wide.
at my
Our
potential
task
move
was to
from
keep the
Walker
machinery
Engineering
operational
to
no
his
matter the
smaller firm.
challenges. The job
Although he
demanded
nearly
long
offered me
hours,
the job
but provided the
immediately,
income
I
necessary to
requested
support
an
my
interview
family,
the following
a
day, which he
responsibility I
agreed
couldn't
to.
shirk. I
Another
understood the
crucial piece
importance
had
of
fallen into
continuing to
place,
earn the money
and
that
things were
supported April's
progressing
pride
rapidly.
and joy.
With
The
ample time
spacious
on
house.
hand, I
I
began
viewed it as a
researching
haven
flats
for
in
our
the area,
family, a source
eventually
of pride
finding
in
one just
providing for
15
them.
minutes from my daughter's
However,
and 5
April
minutes
seemed to
from work.
perceive it differently.
I scheduled
To
a
her,
viewing for
it
the
was a
day
safety
after
net,
the
a
interview with
leverage for
Robert
potential
Williams.
divorce proceedings.
Subsequently,
She
I
coveted the
informed
house and
Jack
my
about
earnings
needing
not
to
for our
visit my
family's
daughters
security,
in
but to
Kingston
fund
to sign some
indulgences for
papers
her
the
lover.
next day,
Lavish
to which he
clothing, trips
casually
to
agreed.
Victoria's Secret,
That
lingerie
night,
purchases.
I phoned my
I turned
longtime
up the
friend
faucet
Toby
to drown
Brown,
out these unsettling
arranging to
thoughts.
meet him and his wife
Even though
Sarah
I was running
the
late,
following evening
I needed
after
to
my
escape
interview
to work,
and flat
where I
viewing.
could focus, strategize,
Toby and
and
Sarah,
make decisions.
aware that I had
Tasks
something
I
on my
couldn't
mind,
manage in my current
eagerly
state.
awaited my
April
explanation.
had clearly plotted this in advance,
Before meeting them,
anticipating
I
my
spoke to my
shock
daughters
upon
about the
discovering her
situation,
betrayal and knowing I
receiving their
wouldn't think
supportive
clearly.
and understanding
She had
responses.
manipulated the situation
At
to
the
portray
gathering
me
with
as the
Toby and
villain
Sarah,
for
I
disapproving of her
disclosed the
affair,
details of the
stacking the
initial
deck in
phase
her
of my
favor.
plans.
I
Their
dressed and
surprise at
fetched
my
a box of
decision to
large
fight
trash
back
bags,
outweighed any
anticipating
shock over
April's
Holly's
departure with the
infidelity,
boys to her
a
mother's
common
house.
occurrence in their view.
Inside, I
Sarah
emptied my
inquired
closet and
about my
drawers into the
decision to leave
bags,
Holly,
gathering essential
offering me
items from
another
the
cup of
bathroom
tea.
into a smaller
I
bag.
recounted the revelations
Laden
from the
with
meeting
bags,
with my
I
cousins,
loaded them into my truck's
including
back
my
seat
father's
and returned
expulsion from the
inside.
house by my mother
I wouldn't
and my
leave just
sisters,
yet. I
siding with
intended
her.
to return after work
I
to
noted
spend
that
time
my
with the
daughters
children.
supported me this time.
I had much to ponder and
Toby
decide.
expressed concern,
One thing was certain.
questioning
My
if the
marriage was
discovery
over,
at the meeting
and April
had
would
spurred
never
me to
again be
stand
my
up for
wife,
myself.
lover, or confidant.
I clarified that it was
She
during
belonged
a
to someone
visit to
else
my
now.
father's grave
As
that
I
I
pondered,
noticed something on the
tears welled
stone,
up uncontrollably,
which shocked me
and I sank
and
to the
prompted
floor
my
of what
decision
once
to
was our
leave.
bedroom,
They
succumbing
both
to
asked
grief.
simultaneously
Loss weighs heavily,
about what I had
especially
seen
in
on
the
the
workplace.
memorial stone.
I threw
I
myself into
shared
my
that it
duties,
featured a
toiling
rose image
relentlessly
with the
even
words,
through lunch
"In loving
breaks,
memory,"
eager to drown out
followed by
thoughts
my
of home,
father's
wife,
birthday
and
and
children,
age
amidst
at
the
passing.
challenges of fuel
Coincidentally,
injectors, timing
my current
chains, and
age.
fuel pumps.
Toby and Sarah
I
slightly
tackled the
recoiled,
toughest tasks without
indicating their
complaint,
understanding.
consumed by
I
a fervor
explained that I
to
faced
bury
a
myself
choice when
in work.
confronted with moments that could lead
10
to
hours
drinks,
later,
loving
Clyde
or worse,
interrupted, urging
as
me
my
to take a
grandmother
break.
believed.
Dude,
I
ease
decided
up.
not to emulate
You're
my
making
father,
the rest of us look
and
like
instead
slackers,
chose to
he
fight
remarked,
back.
watching
I
me with a
continued,
mixture of
revealing
surprise
that I
and
wouldn't
concern.
sacrifice myself trying
Sorry,
to be the
little
perfect
brother.
husband any longer,
Just trying to lose
enduring
myself in it
misuse
all,
and
just trying to
ridicule.
forget.
I confessed to my friends,
bad.
feeling
I must have
vulnerable
seemed
about how
on the
low
verge
I
of
had
tears
sunk.
as Clyde
Sarah
guided me
offered
off
help
the shop floor
and shared her
and into
plan
the
to
break
protect
area.
herself and get back at Holly.
Clyde and I had been
I
inseparable
smiled
since our
and
parents'
nodded,
tragic accident a
appreciating
decade
Sarah's
ago.
toughness, despite
He had been my
previous
best man at
suspicions
the
of her
wedding,
affair.
and 8 years ago
Explaining
he
my
became the
financial
godfather
strategy,
to my boys,
I shared that
Chris
in
Jr. and
2008,
Charlie.
I established a
Seated
separate
at the
savings
table, I
account,
stared blankly as
depositing
Clyde
all
poured
my
us each a
bonuses
cup of hot
and
coffee,
extra cash.
devoid of flavor
Securing
but
a
comforting in
mortgage
its
required
warmth.
only my name, making
All
it
right,
easier
spill
for
it.
me to
Lay it
apply
all out.
alone.
No holding back.
I
Clyde
outlined Toby's
encouraged,
role in
prompting me to
transferring
recount the
ownership of
ordeal
my
in
house
detail.
to a new company
For
he
the
would
next
create
10 minutes,
to
I
settle the
poured out to
mortgage,
Clyde every
transferring the
ounce
deeds
of
through the
shame,
land registry.
humiliation,
Toby
and
voiced
contempt April had
skepticism
heaped
about the
upon
plan,
me. I
but I
divulged
assured him that
menacing
Holly
threats,
wouldn't have the
her
means to
calculated
contest
attempts
it.
to undermine any
I pointed
retaliation
out
on
that
my
her
part while
religious
safeguarding
parents,
her affair.
upon discovering covering
I
her
recounted the
infidelity,
disdain on her
would
face as she
prioritize their
boasted to Robin
principles
about
over
her
supporting
tryst
her.
and the cold
They
determination
agreed,
in her threats
and
to
even
strip
offered
me
to
of
help
everything.
cover the mortgage,
She made it
allowing me to
abundantly
delay
clear that
payment.
her lover's gratification
On
was
my way
paramount,
home, I
unwilling
visited
to
the local
relinquish him
Land
for
Rover
anything.
dealership, where I
Clyde was taken
negotiated to
aback.
trade Holly's
He had
car
always
for the
regarded
latest
April
model.
highly, seeing her
We
as a
terminated the
virtuous
payment
woman
plan
and
for the
dedicated
Range
mother.
Rover Sport she
His
had,
brother had never hinted
benefiting
at
the
any marital
dealership from
issues,
reselling it.
leading Clyde to believe
I
their
assured
union
the
was
dealer
solid.
that I would return
Now,
for my own
faced
upgrade,
with the reality of
knowing he
Chris's
could recoup
pain
the
and
cost of
anguish,
Holly's car
it
by
pained
selling
Clyde
it as
just to witness
practically
it.
brand new.
Chris was a
I
pillar of
apologized
strength,
for any
a devoted
inconvenience,
father,
but
a reliable
explained that the
provider,
prospect of
and a
selling me
trusted
an
confidant
expensive
for the
new
guys in
Range
the
Rover
garage,
more
always
than
there when
compensated.
needed.
Upon
Over the
leaving,
years, he had gone
I picked
above
up
and
a
beyond to help
2016
others.
brochure,
Yet
not for
Clyde's
myself,
shock
but
turned
for
to anger.
Holly.
How could
Upon
April do
arriving
this to
home,
Chris?
she sat
What
in the
was
lounge,
wrong with her?
nursing a coffee
His indignation
and looking
swelled
pale.
as he observed his
I
brother
removed
and
my
closest
jacket
friend
and tossed my
shattered and
bag onto the
defeated.
floor. preparing
Chris,
to enact the
listen to
second
me.
part of the plan.
You can't just accept this.
I expressed my
we
love
have to take
for Holly
action.
and my
Let
desire
me and the
for
guys
her to
lend a
have the
hand.
best.
This is
I
unbearable.
declared that I would
Clyde
trade in her
implored,
car
concern
and buy
etched
her a
on his
new
rugged
2017
features.
model.
It was genuine
pointing to
care
it
for
in
his
the brochure.
brother, palpable in the air.
Expressing her
Chris met his
enthusiasm,
gaze with a
she
despondent
exclaimed that she
expression.
loved the new car.
What can I do?
Unaware of my
If
plan.
I divorce her, she'll
she
strip me of
acknowledged my
everything.
ability to make her
Child
feel
support,
better,
alimony, the
mentioning
house,
the
the
only
car.
hiccup being that
You know
they
I'd never
already
injure
had a
the
buyer
kids.
for my car.
She's using them as
She
pawns
proposed
against
taking
me.
it to the
and
dealership
now
by
that idiot
Friday
she's
afternoon,
fooling around with
leaving
will
work
replace
early
their
for the
father.
task.
He's an
She
idiot
suggested
who
I
thinks
use
it's
her
okay
car
to
for
bet
the
another
weekend
man's
to
wife.
visit my lovers,
I'm
causing her to
powerless.
recoil at the final
Clyde
remark.
shook his head
A
vehemently.
look of shock
To hell
and
with both of
confusion
them.
crossing
I
her
used to
face,
love April like a sister, but she's
inquiring
made
about
her
what
bed,
was wrong.
and now she'll
I
have
prompted
to lie
her
in
to
it.
address the situation.
We need to go after
She
both
mentioned
of them.
nothing
First
specific,
step, figure out
but
who he
asked
is.
if I was still
That's the
upset
easy
about our
part.
arrangement.
Let me make a couple
I
calls, then we'll
clarified
discuss.
that it was not
Clyde
our
declared.
arrangement,
I
but
simply
rather
shrugged.
hers,
All right, but
emphasizing
I'm not
that I
sure
had
what you
no
expect
say
me
in
to
it.
do. She
I
doesn't share
questioned
anything
if I
about
had
him
no
with
choice
me.
but to accept it,
Doesn't matter.
hoping for a
We'll
response.
track him down and expose him
She
like we
simply
would anyone
nodded,
else.
appearing as
And
if
you
she had
realize you
asserted her
can't take April
dominance
back,
and I
right?
had surrendered.
What she did makes
Despite the
reconciliation
circumstances,
impossible.
she
If
declared
you
that she
condone
loved
her
me,
actions, she'll never
expressing
respect
genuine
you again.
concern.
No way, man.
I said nothing
She's
in
someone
reply
else's plaything
and walked
now.
off into the kitchen.
His words caught me off
My
guard
phone began to
momentarily,
ring,
but then a
so I
faint
headed out to
smile
the back
crept onto
garden
my
to take the
face.
call.
You're
Toby
right.
confirmed the
She's
money
not
had
my
been
beloved
transferred.
wife anymore.
I was
Last
good
night
to go
taught
the
me how
next day.
swiftly love can morph
Without
into
delay,
hatred.
I entered
And
the
my
bank
animosity
and was
towards her
shown into
today
the mortgage
eclipses any
specialist's
love I
office.
ever had for her.
An hour later,
Last night she
the mortgage
stole
was
that from
paid
me
off,
and
and
turned
all
it
my
against
remaining
herself.
accounts were
I made
closed.
that clear to her.
I walked a few doors
We continued
down
chatting
and
a bit
opened a
more,
new account
then
with
wrapped
another
up
bank.
work without any
I was
extra
content,
hours.
knowing
We
I
headed
wouldn't
to
have
a
to pay
nearby
anything
bar with
again
no intention of
unless
getting
Holly
drunk.
pursued
This
legal
was
action
business.
and took
Plans
me to
needed
court.
to be made.
My smile faded.
Clyde made a few more calls,
The
and we
next
sat
day,
down to
I
strategize.
contacted the land registry
I was
and
touched by the
completed the
unwavering
appropriate
support from
online
my friends.
application.
They didn't pry,
With all the
just wanted
details
to
of
know how
Toby
they
and
could
Sarah's
assist.
new company, within
Together,
10 minutes of
we
applying,
devised a
I
feasible
received
plan.
a confirmation
At 7
email
that
stating
evening,
it would
I
take
pulled
3
into
to
my
5
driveway
days
and
to
entered
complete.
the house.
Once
It
done,
struck me as funny.
I would simply hand
This
over
was
the
no
deeds
longer
to
my
Toby,
home.
and he could
It was just a
register the
place to
property
stay.
to his company.
Shedding my
That
jacket
same
in the
day,
kitchen, I
I
made my
knocked on
way to the
Jack's
living
door.
room.
Olivia was
There,
with him,
April
as
sat in
usual.
her chair,
Fridays
watching
were
Chris and
typically
Charlie,
when he
our
had his way
5-year-old
with her,
twins,
and I believe
engrossed
I
in a video
interrupted
game.
their closeness
I stood
activities.
there, capturing
She
the
left
scene
us
in my
alone,
mind forever.
placing my
April met
resignation
my
on his
gaze
desk.
as I glanced
He
at
looked
her,
up at me
her
with
faint
that
smile
stupid
now
smirk
revealing
on
its
his
true
face.
contempt
He
for
inquired
me and
about
our
the
facade of
document in my
family
hands.
unity.
I
It was all a
replied that it was
charade,
my resignation
orchestrated by her
and
deception.
expressed the belief that
Now I
leaving
saw and
immediately would be
understood.
best,
I returned her
considering the
gaze with a look
situation
of
with our
disdain,
families.
devoid of any smile.
I suggested
When I
that he
turned
might
away,
not
she
want me
averted her
around for
eyes.
too long.
Heading to the
He appeared
kitchen, I
dumbstruck
peered
by
into
the
the
news.
fridge, pulling
I
out what
boldly
appeared to
requested
be
that my
leftover
P45
fried
be
chicken
ready
and
by
mashed
Monday,
potatoes,
and
reheating them in the
emphasized not
microwave.
mentioning my departure
I
to
wasn't
anyone
hungry,
Holly
but
didn't
I needed
know.
the distraction.
He pleaded
I
pathetically,
had intended to speak with the
insisting that they
boys
needed
before
me.
their bedtime.
I
But
countered
Clyde
by saying
advised
they
against
apparently
it,
needed
urging
his
me to
nephew
postpone
more.
the conversation
I
for now.
informed him that I would
But
return
when I
on
do
Monday
address
to
them,
collect the last of
it
my
will mark
things.
the first move in the
Discreetly,
battle initiated
I
by
pretended
April.
to drop a pin
I
from
might
my
have lost,
pocket,
undoubtedly,
using the
but I
opportunity
would
to
fight
remove
to
a
the
digital
end.
recorder from my sock.
Seated with my plate,
Constructing a pin
I
for
began
it,
to eat
I
slowly,
hit record
the
and
food offering
discreetly
little
placed it under the
satisfaction
seat
but necessary
and
for
into the wooden
sustenance.
frame as I stood back
About
up.
halfway through, April
Concluding
joined
the
me at the table,
conversation,
sitting
I
across
mentioned
from me.
having things to
I
do
glanced at her
and left
briefly
his
before
office.
returning my focus to
As
my
a
meal,
parting shot,
chewing
I
deliberately.
told him not to come
There were no
crawling
words
back when he's
exchanged.
broke,
I had nothing to say
suggesting
to her
that
at
the
the
only
moment.
thing keeping his
Are you
cheating
feeling more
wife with him
composed after
was
last
his money.
night? Can we
I
engage in a
smiled,
civilized
knowing that it
conversation
hit a
now?
nerve.
Her words
Turning,
caught
I
me
left
off
his
guard.
office. An hour
Civilized
later,
adults.
I drove home,
How about a
picked
cheating
up
woman
Holly's
and her
car and
betrayed
logbook,
husband?
and
That's
dropped
more
off her
realistic.
car at the dealership.
Opting for silence
John
instead,
Reeves
I
kindly
withheld
offered
my
to drive me
response.
home,
Are
and
you
I
going to
accepted
ignore me
gratefully.
now? Acting
When I got
childish
home
and
that
silent?
night,
I
Holly
had
was
higher
sitting
higher
at the kitchen
expectations of
table
you,
with
Chris.
big red bags
We need
under
to
her
consider the
eyes.
children now.
I knew she
You
had been
must
crying.
remember your role as
I
their
asked her
father
what
in this
happened.
household.
Reluctantly,
Am
she
I
told me
truly
she had
their father
contracted
now?
gonorrhea.
It makes me
I
wonder.
laughed.
Maybe
Oh,
I should
did I
confirm with some
laugh?
tests.
She just glared at me.
Let's keep this civil
He
without
suggested
anger, just a
taking the
simple
medications
statement.
to get back to normal.
April's expression
and the
darkened with
tension in the
fury,
air was
poised to
palpable.
retort when I
That
calmly
night,
interjected.
For the first
Watch
time
your tone,
in months,
April.
I
The
slept
children
well.
might overhear if you start
the next
shouting.
morning,
Remember
I slept
them?
in the
The
spare
ones you
room
accused me
and
of
felt
neglecting
refreshed.
last night when I got
The
upset?
good night's sleep had
Well,
done wonders for
now
me.
it's your turn to remember.
I entered our bedroom and
Reflect
gently
on what
woke
you've
Holly,
done to their world.
explaining that I was
Not
giving
only
her
did you
space to
indulge in
rest
an
and
affair,
recuperate.
you shattered
Holly
our
expressed
entire
a belief
family.
that I found her
Think
disgusting,
carefully, April.
to which I remained
April
silent.
paused, lowering
Tears
her
started
voice to a
streaming down
hiss.
her cheeks as
You
she
didn't
admitted
seem
to
to
messing
consider
up
my
big
words
time.
last night.
She professed
I
her love
expected
for
you to
me
move past
and
this and
expressed a
return to
desire for
normal.
me to get better.
Nothing will change at home.
Initially, I
I
felt
still love
sympathy
you,
for her,
and you
but
are
it
my
vanished
husband.
quicker than
That
expected.
hasn't changed.
That surprised
Neither
me.
you nor the
It
children
dawned
will
on me
lose
then
anything
that
familiar.
I had lost all
I
affection
keep
for
my
the woman
affairs
I'd been
discreet,
married to for 21
conducting
years.
my business when they're at
Could love
school and
truly
you're
fade
at work.
away so swiftly?
You have nothing to lose.
Apparently so,
as I'm always here
because
for
I
you.
was done, and her
I remained
situation did
silent,
nothing to sway me.
continuing to eat
I left the
methodically.
room.
I
Without saying
maintained
a
a
word,
stoic
I
expression,
got into my car
devoid of
and
reaction.
drove off contentedly.
My eyes betrayed
That night,
nothing as
I
I
stayed
looked
with
at her.
Toby and Sarah,
Despite
who
the
hosted a
absence
dinner
of
party
verbal
with many
response,
friends
my
and
eyes
colleagues
conveyed
present.
everything.
When I returned home
Slowly,
late
April
Sunday
began to
morning,
grasp the
I found
gravity of
Holly
the
up doing
situation.
chores.
For the
Walking
first time,
into
a
the
hint of
lounge,
fear
she rushed
flickered through
towards
her.
me and hugged me when she
What do
saw
you
me.
intend to do?
I simply
Will you
patted her
make
on the
things
back.
difficult for me?
Excitedly,
I
I
hoped you
suggested
loved me enough
arranging
to
for the
grant
new
me
car
this
to
time
arrive,
alone.
offering to
I
drop
told
her
you
off in
last
town
night
to
that he
meet her
didn't take
sister,
anything from
who
you
could then
and that
drive
I'll
her to
always
the
support you.
dealership. I
Why can't you
envisioned her
grasp
driving
that?
back in the new Range Rover,
April grew
and she
increasingly
smiled,
emotional, while I
approaching me with
continued to
open
stare at her,
arms.
calmly chewing
Turning
my
back to
food.
the kettle,
Finally
I pretended
swallowing,
not to
I
notice her.
suggested, "Let's save
Throughout
this
the day,
discussion for
Holly
after the
displayed
kids are in
excessive
bed.
affection,
I
making
listened
me
to you
feel
last night
uncomfortable.
despite my
She
discomfort,
persistently
but
tried
I
to
won't
kiss or
entertain this
hug me,
conversation
but I
while the
kept
children
finding
are awake."
excuses to leave.
April
By
appeared to
bedtime, I
regain her
noticed she had been
composure
crying
and
again.
resumed smiling.
Wishing her good night,
"Thank you for that.
she inquired
I
if I
think
would
you
be
had
sleeping
some
with
valid
her,
points,
and
but
expressed
your
a
words
desire
hurt
to
me.
cuddle up
I'll
and
take
hear
the boys upstairs
reassurances.
soon, and then
Feeling
we can
nothing,
talk."
I responded
passed
that it
by
wouldn't
me,
happen
placing
until
her
she
hand
got
on my
the all
shoulder.
clear from the
I
doctor.
involuntarily flinched
I
at her
firmly
touch,
asserted that
causing
she
her
made
to
her
retract
bed,
her hand.
to which she
The
retorted
disgust
bitterly,
I felt from that
stating
simple
that when
gesture
she
was
got better,
palpable.
she was
With
sure
the
she
kids,
could
I
find
tried
a
to
man
maintain my
willing to be in
usual
bed with
self,
her,
though knowing
as she had
everything was
plenty
about
of
to
lost time
change
to
weighed
make up
heavily
for.
on me.
I chuckled to
Yet,
myself.
I had come
It
to
took
terms
longer
with the
than
fact that
expected,
April's
but there
actions
it
had
was,
shattered it
and the
all for me.
harshness was back.
Perhaps I should
All
just
the
play the
regrets
role of
from
the
Friday
compliant
night had
husband
vanished,
and accept her
leaving
terms.
behind 21
Wait
years
until
of
she's done
resentment.
with her affair.
In the past,
After all,
I
hadn't
would have
she
fallen
claimed she
for her
still loved me and
manipulations.
wanted to remain
But
married?
this time,
But
I
I knew I
ignored her
couldn't do it.
tears and headed
Not
for the
now.
spare room.
Not ever again.
It would be my
Around
last
9
night in my
o'clock,
house,
April entered
and
the
it would
room
be in
where
the
I
spare
sat.
room.
Letting
I
out a
was
heavy
also
sigh,
relieved she
she
said
settled
those
into a
things.
chair and
It
smiled.
erased any
I
lingering
put them to
doubts I might
bed,
have
and they
had.
fell asleep.
As I
They're
looked at
getting
my
too big
doctored
to tuck
picture of
in,
her and
but
my
they still
sisters,
say goodnight and
all I
pretend
felt
to
was
sleep.
hatred for her.
They're good boys.
She was only sweet
I
when she
nodded in
wanted
agreement.
something, and
They're
nasty
wonderful
when she
kids.
didn't get it.
It's unfortunate that they'll
I
have to
woke
endure
early
so much
Monday
pain,
morning.
and I'm
Holly
unsure
was
how
up
to
early
ease their
too
suffering.
for her 8:30 hair
What do you
appointment.
mean?
So
I
I
thought
drove
you
her into
understood that
town as
nothing
planned.
needs to change.
I drove off,
Just
knowing
give me
it could
what
be
I
the
want,
last time
and
I
we can
ever saw
return
her.
to being the same
I feared
family
it
we
wouldn't
were.
be, but I
Just
was
be
determined
patient.
to make it so.
I promised it
On
would
the
all
way,
be
I
over
called the
soon.
mobile phone company
You won't
and
lose
terminated
anything.
both our
I
contracts.
love you deeply and want
Pulling
to
over
remain
into
your
a
wife.
lay-by, I paid
It's
the
just
penalty
something
on
I
my
have
card.
to do.
They
That's
informed
all.
me that the phones would
I
remain in
gazed at
service
the
until
woman who had been my
5
wife for the
p.m.
past 8
perfect.
years.
Next, I
I
headed to
married
the
her
office
because
to pick
I
up my
couldn't imagine life
P45.
without her.
I
We had
stepped into
2
the factory,
amazing children and
greeted
a
by a
solid
somber
marriage
atmosphere.
until last night.
Word of my
Now
departure
everything was
seemed to have
different,
spread,
and she couldn't
briefly
comprehend why I
eliciting
deemed it
looks of fear
necessary.
from my colleagues.
I wouldn't delve into the
Unsure
specifics
of the
tonight,
reason
but I
behind
needed to be
their unease,
unequivocal.
I made my way down
April,
the
I
corridor
heard you
toward
out
my
last
office,
night.
passing
You made
by
your
the coffee
desires
machine
clear.
where the usual
You claimed
group
you
was
loved
gathered.
me and want to be my wife.
Uncertain if Max
You
and Henry
insist he
were
doesn't
aware
take
of their
anything
shared
from me.
involvement with my
Refused
wife.
to disclose his
They
identity
grinned at me,
because it's none
exchanging
of my
jokes with
business.
others.
And you
I
outlined
greeted
the
them with false
consequences
cheer,
if I
saying
pursued a
good morning.
divorce.
They asked
You made
about
it
my
abundantly
wife,
clear that
prompting
you'll
the
strip
usual
everything
laughter
from
at the
me without
recurring joke,
hesitation,
which I
just as
failed
you
to find
stated.
amusing.
You threatened to
I
take
replied
everything,
that she wasn't
even my
doing well,
boys. That much
attributing
was
it to
evident.
one of them giving her
April
an
listened,
unwelcome surprise.
her face displaying anger.
I left them
She
in
wasn't
stunned
pleased
silence,
with my recap of her
and
words.
when I glanced back,
However they
their
sounded,
jaws had
they
dropped,
resonated differently
leading
coming
to a
from
commotion
me. But she
before I headed
recognized the
upstairs.
truth in what I conveyed.
Approaching Olivia,
I
she
perceive
offered a
that you
half
don't view
smile
this
and lowered
situation
her
the same
head,
way I do, Chris.
perhaps
I
indicating that I
emphasize
was
that
now
this
earning
isn't
some
about our
respect.
marriage. Yet you
Jack
didn't
appeared
heed
at
my
the door
words.
before I could
Why
knock.
can't you trust
He
me when
asserted
I
that he
express
had
that I
what I
still love
wanted,
you and
instructing
desire
me
to
to
uphold
take
our
it and
marriage?
get out.
What I heard from
Perhaps
you
that
last night,
respect
April,
was merely my
disdain.
imagination.
Disdain toward me and our
Entering his
marriage.
office,
When I
sat
expressed
down,
frustration, you
discreetly slipping
retaliated
a
with
recorder into my
premeditated
pocket
threats.
from under the chair.
Threats that you had
I
carefully
knew he'd
considered
had his
before
usual
addressing
Friday
me.
rendezvous
Disdain
with
for
Olivia,
me for
and
all my
now
efforts
I
on our
had it
behalf
recorded.
over the years.
He snapped,
You belittle
inquiring
me,
if I had another
berate
job
me,
lined up.
threaten me, and accuse me of
Initially ignoring
misunderstanding.
him, I relented
You were fully
and
aware
replied
that I would
had
react
nothing
just
lined
as
up.
I did.
A smirk
Why did you
played across
presume
his
to have
face,
already determined
likely
what to do
assuming
with
I would
me?
come crawling back.
Why did you believe
I
you had all
inquired
the
about
answers
my final
ready?
month's pay and
Now I was
end-of-year
starting
bonus,
to feel angered.
to which he
Up
burst
until
into
now,
laughter.
I had remained composed and
Olivia
in control,
entered with my
but that composure was
P45,
gradually
and when
slipping
she
away.
asked what was amusing,
April's enraged
Jack
expression
explained that I had
infuriated
requested
me.
my bonus
I came to
and
one
pay,
conclusion
finding
that
it
you
rich.
seemed to overlook
Olivia
last night,
chimed
April,
in,
when you
laughing
threatened
along.
and backed me into a
Deciding
corner
to
thinking
join
I
in,
couldn't find a
I
way out.
responded with
I
laughter,
mentioned it then,
causing
and
them
I'll
to
reiterate
pause
it
and
now.
stare at me
Even a rat
incredulously.
will fight a cat
Olivia
when cornered
questioned
and with
why I was
nothing
laughing,
left to lose.
and I retorted,
With these
asking
words,
her why
I
she
stood
let
up
the
and
old
walked
man take
away.
advantage of her every
As I
week.
approached the kitchen
My
door
laughter
where April was
intensified,
seated, I
and they
paused.
froze, with Olivia's eyes
I'm going to stay
widening
elsewhere
as
for the
Jack
night
flushed with
temporarily.
rage.
I'll
In
return after
response
work
to
so the
Jack's
kids won't
anger,
notice
he
anything
spat
right
out,
away.
calling me a
Why are you
scoundrel
planning to stay
and
somewhere
instructing
else?
me to get out of
Why
his
not stay
office and
here?
his company
We
before
can't
he had
resolve
the
this
boys
problem if you
drag
leave.
me out by my
Chris,
ears.
please don't. I love
Chuckling,
you and
I
don't want to
exited,
lose you.
collecting the
I don't know
last of
what
my
I'll do if
belongings
you
from
leave
my
me.
office.
Please,
Still
Chris,
laughing
let's
to
attempt
myself,
to address this.
I arrived home,
There must be a way
unloaded
to
the back
reconcile.
seats, opened the
I'm sorry,
trunk,
April.
and entered
The only
the house.
certainty I have now is that
Surveying
I
the
no longer
rooms,
love you.
I pondered
Your
what to
infidelity
take with
last
me.
night extinguished all my
Retrieving
love
a
for
few
you.
Romero Brito
That's the only
artworks,
thing I know
I
for
wrapped them in
sure.
plastic found in
I'm
the garage
unsure of what I'll do
and
next,
loaded
but
them
I'm
into
certain
my
there's
car.
no turning back
I
now.
went around the house collecting various
Chris,
items, then
What about
emptied
your
my
vows
wardrobe
to
upstairs.
love and cherish me?
I secured
Have you
all my
forgotten
important
them?
paperwork,
I
including
also
the girls'
recall your
birth
vows to me.
certificates
You
and my
pledged
wedding
on our wedding
certificate
day to forsake
from the
all
safe.
others, yet you didn't.
Utilizing a loft
You
ladder,
promised to love
I
only
retrieved
me,
my old
but
belongings,
you shared what we
including
had
my
with another
degree
man.
and family photos.
I cared for you,
In the
loved
master
you,
bedroom,
upheld
I
our
gathered all
marital
the
vows,
jewelry
and
I
gave
had
you
gifted
everything
Holly
I had.
over the years,
It wasn't
totaling
sufficient.
over
You
10,000
bestowed what
pounds
was
in
mine
value.
upon someone else.
I also
You
took
gave
all
it
the
away,
handbags,
shattering
shoes,
my love
and
in the
expensive
process.
coats I had purchased.
So yes,
In fact,
I can move
the
past
entire
this.
wardrobe
You
was my
shattered my
acquisition,
love for you into
so
pieces.
I claimed it
I can
all.
depart, and I
Given
will.
my meticulous
I headed to Clyde's
record-keeping for
house, where he
insurance
welcomed me to
purposes,
stay as long as
it would
needed.
prove beneficial
Time
when
to finish
selling
what we
everything.
started. Soon,
After
it'll all
finishing
be over,
packing, I
and I'll begin
realized
anew.
I'd need a TV, so
In
I
the
grabbed
following
that
days,
along
I
with my
balanced
movie
work with
collection
evenings spent with
and the
my
Blu-ray
kids.
Player.
However,
By
I
now,
avoided
my
any
car
further
was too
interaction
full.
with April.
I decided
Despite
to
her
ditch
attempts to
all of
engage,
Holly's
I walked
clothes
away each
and a
time.
few other
On
unnecessary
one occasion,
items,
she yelled, but I
including
simply
some
left
of my
without a
old
word.
clothes.
During a work
I knew
break,
me would need
a
a new
colleague
wardrobe,
informed Clyde
and the
that
girls would
preparations were
gladly help
complete,
me out.
and we'd have results
I
in a few
gathered
days.
the best pictures of me and
All
the
that
girls
remained was
and
patience.
packed them in the car.
The routine
No
continued
real rush,
unchanged until the
since Holly
following
wouldn't be
week.
back until after
Each
2
evening,
p.m.
I returned
Took
to
a
an
moment for a
increasingly
cup of tea.
agitated April.
A must-have.
The kids seemed
I believe
oblivious,
it's in the Magna Carta.
but Charlie's
Called
question
the
about
TV
my long
company
hours
and
prompted
canceled the satellite
reassurance.
phone and
He
internet.
seemed satisfied,
Also
and the
contacted
momentary
British
crisis
Gas and
passed.
Southern Water
April
to cancel
persisted with
utilities.
questions,
It
but
would
I
take
ignored
a few
her,
days,
leaving when
but I
she
didn't
took the
care.
kids to bed.
Returned to the
By
bedroom and
week's
sat on the
end,
bed
Clyde entered the
when I
break room
noticed
and
something
handed me
that
a
sparked
folder.
an idea.
Without a
One
word,
that scared
I opened
even
it to
me.
find a brief report.
Holly's
Carl
wedding
Cummings,
dress
a
sat at the top of
24-year-old
the
junior
wardrobe
attorney
in
at
a
Lincoln
dusty old
Rice and
box.
Holmes.
She loved
Divorced 2 years
probably
ago,
more than
financially
me.
stable.
Took it
Residing
down
in a
and found our
condominium where
wedding
April had
album
visited
among
multiple
the box
times
of
that week.
photographs on the bed.
Now armed with a
Grabbed
name
the
and
duvet
address,
cover,
I pondered
gathered
what allure
everything,
he held
and
that
headed to
eluded
the
me.
garden.
Yet it
Dumped
was no longer
everything
my
into
concern.
a pile, including
Had
Holly's
April
clothes
approached
and
me earlier,
belongings I couldn't
perhaps
sell.
this could have been resolved
Left her
differently.
underwear untouched.
So what's
Didn't
next?
want any reminders.
What steps should I
Closed
take?
up the car and checked
I
the
sought
time.
Clyde's guidance.
Only
Though the issue
1:45
was mine,
p.m. called
Clyde
up
seemed
Robert
the one in
Williams
charge.
and told him
I
I'd
was
drop off
fortunate
my
to have friends and a
P45
brother
later
like
with
Clyde.
the night shift.
Being
eager
a
to
good
start
man
fresh
and diligent
tomorrow.
worker sufficed
He
for
seemed
true
pleased,
friends.
and I hoped
Now
that
I
brightened
needed
his
them
day.
more than ever.
At 2 p.m.,
Everything's
I sat
underway.
waiting for the call.
The first move happens
Found
tonight.
some paint
I'll
thinners
call
in
you
the
once
garage
it's set.
and
Just
poured
keep your
it
phone
all
close.
over the wedding
You
dress
can
in the
inform her
garden.
and put an end to this
Just
mess.
as I was about to light the
Okay.
fire, my phone rang.
Knowing it needed to be
I
done
answered
didn't bring
calmly,
relief.
and
This
Holly's
wasn't my
voice
preferred
came through the
approach.
phone,
However,
demanding
April
to know
and her
what
lover
was
left me
going
no
on.
choice, and I
I
fought back
replied
the only way I
sarcastically,
could. I
asking
wasn't
her
a
what she
lawyer
meant,
or a wealthy strategist.
insisting that I shouldn't
I was a
play dumb.
mechanic,
She
a
continued to
hardworking
question
individual
me.
who took pride
I
in
asked
providing
her
for
to
his
calm
family
down
through honest
and
labor.
inquired about what
I
was
loved
happening.
April deeply, but my
There was
efforts weren't
silence,
enough for her fine.
and I could hear her
My
heavy
plan
breathing
aligned with my
and what
world, and
sounded
she'd
like her
soon
sister
realize
in
it.
the background.
Returning home, I
She
joined my
mentioned
family for
that
dinner
she
as
had been
usual.
told I didn't
April
get her
engaged
a
with
new
the kids,
car,
and I
but sold
participated
hers
in
instead.
conversations and activities,
Teasingly,
concealing my nervousness.
I mentioned that I might have
After
forgotten
dinner,
to
I spent
mention
quality
that.
time with the
She
kids,
started to
playing
sound
video
panicked,
games and assisting
asking
with
what was
homework,
going on.
playing the role of the
Remaining
typical
calm
husband and
despite
father.
my racing heart,
April,
I
finishing the
informed her that
dishes,
from
observed
now
the
on,
scene,
if
seeming
she
more at
wanted a
ease,
car, she
perhaps
could pay
thinking
for it
everything would
herself.
soon return to normal.
She yelled in response,
As I played video
expressing
games with my
confusion and
boys,
frustration.
Carl Cummings left
I
his office,
reiterated
headed
that
to his
she heard
car
me just
parked
fine
across
and
town.
added that I needed to tidy
He
up the
reflected
kitchen.
on the intense
She questioned
encounter with
if it was
April
some
at
kind
his
of
place
sick
2
joke,
days earlier.
to which I said nothing.
She was eager for him,
She declared that we
agreeing
would
for the
talk
first
about it when
time
she
to get
got home,
close when he asked why.
expressing her dissatisfaction
After their
with being
rendezvous,
pranked.
she revealed
I
her
remained
husband had
silent.
discovered their affair.
I hung up the phone amidst
Shocked,
her continued
Carl was
screams of my
reassured
name.
by her not to worry.
Stepping outside,
It struck him
I
as
struck a
odd that her
match and
husband's
ignited
knowledge
the
seemed to
fire.
heighten her
Our
adventurousness.
history went up in flames as I
Despite
walked
this, it was
away.
the best physical engagement engaging
Retrieving
he'd
our
had,
marriage
so he
certificate
brushed
from
it
my
off.
pocket, I tore it
Walking
into
past
shreds
an alley toward his
and
car,
left it
he
on the
suddenly
kitchen
stumbled,
table,
feeling a
alongside
pull.
a lone
As
photograph
he
of us
struggled
at
to maintain his
Disneyland,
balance and
capturing
avoid falling,
happier times.
someone seized his
I
arms and
wondered
pulled
if
him
she
down the alley
reminisced
toward the
fondly about
courtyard.
those moments too.
Pinned against the building's wall
Sliding
by
into
two
my
imposing
car,
figures,
I drove
one on
off.
each side. He
Approaching
strained
the
to
end of the
discern their
street,
faces
I
beneath
glimpsed
their
Holly
black
and
ski
Jennifer
masks.
in my rearview mirror,
Despite their
rushing
intimidating
into the
size,
house
fear
without a
began to
glance
creep
upward.
over him. With
With a
little
smile,
cash and no
I
flashy
powered off my
accessories, he
phone and
wondered what
drove
they
on.
wanted.
By
A
4
third
p.m.,
masked
I
man,
reached
wearing
Sutton.
gloves, stepped forward
Deciding
and
I
lifted
had time,
Carl's face
I
with a
visited
firm
a
grip
nearby
under
phone
his
shop
chin.
to set up a new
In a
mobile
coarse voice,
contract.
he inquired,
Additionally,
"You familiar
I
with
caught
a
the
woman
admin
named
team at
April
work
Phillips?"
to handle my P45
Idiot.
and met
The
Freya,
mention of her
my new
name sent a
secretary,
shiver down
who,
Carl's spine.
unlike Olivia,
Oh no.
exuded
So that's what this
professionalism
is about?
despite
Her
her
darn
youth.
husband. She never mentioned he
Returning
was
to my
involved.
empty flat, I
No,
brewed a
I don't
cup
know
of tea
anyone
with
by
a
that
kettle
name,
borrowed
he
from
stammered,
home.
shaking,
I unpacked
yet
and ordered
determined
pizza
to
for
deny
dinner.
everything.
Checking my old
The
phone,
hefty man
I
landed
found
a
it
blow to his
disconnected.
ribs, causing
A smirk crossed
excruciating
my
pain
lips,
and stealing his
knowing
breath.
Holly was now
Dizzy,
phoneless too,
he saw stars
affording
swirling
the
before
girl
him.
some respite
The intense
before my
agony gripped
inevitable
him,
contact.
instilling deep fear.
Setting up my
I'll ask
sleeping
again,
bag in the lounge,
you familiar with
I
a woman
awaited
named
dinner.
April Phillips?
Furniture
Idiot.
would arrive over the weekend.
Unable to deceive
but
any
for
longer,
now,
Carl
I
abandoned
relished the
denial.
distance from Holly.
Yes, I know her.
Switching on my laptop,
Please, God,
I
let me make it
accessed
out of here
recordings
alive.
from Jack
He
Walker's
prayed
office,
silently.
revealing
You'll never
his
cross
affair with
paths with
Olivia.
her again.
After
Clear.
uploading the
The
evidence,
imposing figure
I
awaited
made
his
copies
response.
on USB sticks,
Crystal clear.
addressing them to
Got it?
Jack's wife, Margaret,
Perhaps it was merely
and
a warning.
Olivia's boyfriend, Peter.
Got it? He could
I
accept
planned
that.
to mail them the next day.
I need to ensure you
Lastly,
grasp this fully.
I phoned my daughter
My pals
Sophie
and I
to
aren't
update her,
convinced someone like
cautioning
you
against
messing with other
informing her
men's
mother of
wives
my
is all that
whereabouts,
bright.
which she
So
hadn't
we're
done
going to
yet,
ensure
given
you
Holly's lack
comprehend,
of
the big
communication
man
means.
explained ominously.
Over the
Ceasing
following
their
week,
pressure against the
I
wall,
furnished
they
my
allowed him
flat
to steady
and
himself.
began diverting
The initial
customers
blow
from
struck
Walker
him hard in the
Engineering to
groin,
Sutton.
causing him to double over.
Despite a few loyal
Despite
to
his
Jack,
agony, they
most
prevented him
preferred
from
our
collapsing,
offerings, leading
delivering
to
another
Walker's
blow
loss.
to his ribs.
I
A sharp
anticipated
click
Jack's
signaled a
discovery
broken
of the
rib.
reason for
Then
his
came a
business
devastating
decline,
blow to
but
his
remained
jaw,
indifferent.
nearly toppling
With
him with
utilities
pain.
cut off at
Subsequent
my former
strikes
home,
hit him in the
Holly
groin
would
until
realize my
mercifully
absence
he
as
blacked
she
out.
struggled with
They likely
bills.
continued their
Toby
assault until
initiated
they
the home
ceased,
sale process,
gradually brought
backed
back to
by Sarah's
consciousness. They
enthusiasm,
drilled a few
and by
words
week's
into him
end,
repeatedly.
signs adorned
His
the
memory
property.
faded until
During
he
this
awoke
time,
in Memorial
Ava
Hospital's
contacted
emergency
me,
room.
revealing
While his
Holly's
injuries weren't
relocation to her
life-threatening,
parents' home,
he was
where
admitted to the general
disapproval
care
lingered
unit,
over her
heavily
infidelity.
medicated and in
Holly
intense pain.
seethed with rage toward
Grateful
me,
for his
which
survival,
oddly gratified
he whispered
me,
a prayer.
though I knew the
They
saga
informed him
wasn't
that she
over.
might contact him,
By the weekend,
instructing him precisely
Toby and
what to
Sarah
say.
hosted another
He recalled the
successful dinner
words he
party,
needed to convey to
offering
her.
a moment of
I
respite
deeply
from my escape
apologize,
plan.
Mrs. Phillips. It
Sunday
was my
brought
fault, and I
promising
deeply
news.
regret it.
After just a
I will
week on the
cease
market,
all
I
contact with
received
you and your
two
children.
serious offers
I'm sorry
for
our paths ever crossed.
£550,000,
Farewell.
one of which I accepted
Carl
immediately.
reclined on the bed, awaiting her
Preparing
call.
for the completion,
He rehearsed
I
these
arranged
words in his
ISAs
mind
for
to
the girls
avoid
and
any
investments,
errors. He
ensuring
reminded
Toby was
himself that any
compensated
deviation
and securing
would
a
not
portion
go
in cash
unnoticed,
for my
and
safety.
the consequences would be
Protecting
severe.
myself remained
Repeating
a
the phrases
priority.
to himself once
As the
more,
week progressed,
he vowed
Toby's
never to
news
pursue
that
a
the
married
sale
woman
could move
again,
swiftly
regardless of
filled
who
me
she may
with
be.
delight. I
Just
promptly
past 8
reached
in
out
the
to a
evening,
removal
while
company,
playing with the twins,
tasking
my
them
cell
with
phone
clearing
rang.
out my former home.
Excusing myself to another
Meanwhile,
room,
the
I took the
girls
call.
contacted their mother,
Seeing Clyde's
who
caller
responded
ID,
with
I heard a
heightened
brief
anger and
message.
threats.
It's done.
Assuring the
Lesson
girls
1
that the
completed.
turmoil would soon
He was
end,
admitted to the
I
hospital.
offered them solace.
Then the call ended.
On Tuesday morning,
Returning to
during
the
a
living room with a
conversation
smile,
new
April
client
noticed but
who had
said nothing,
recently met with
returning
Jack
a smile
Walker
herself,
to discuss a possible
interpreting
contract
it as good
renewal,
news.
I learned of Walker
Later,
Engineering's
April took
dire
the children
situation.
upstairs,
The
casting a
client
questioning
revealed
glance at me.
that due to a significant
Assuring her
loss
I'd
of
be there when
projects,
she returned,
the company
she
had to
smiled
lay off
broadly
50%
and went
of its
about
staff.
putting the children to bed.
Additionally, he informed
Settling
me of
into
Mrs.
the
Walker's
living room,
decision to divorce
I
Jack
waited in
over his
anticipation.
infidelity.
The moment
Despite
of reckoning
this
had
revelation,
arrived.
I felt no
As
sympathy,
April returned with a
my
coffee
mind
pot and
preoccupied
cups,
with
she
calculating
suggested we
commission
talk
checks.
further.
While
Noting
I
my
remained
apparent
unaware of
resignation,
Olivia
she
and her
expressed
boyfriend's
relief,
fate,
professing
I knew
her
he had
love and
received
fear
my
of
gift.
losing me over such
Whether
trivial
Mrs. Walker
matters
had
in
received hers
comparison
or
to
not,
our
the
relationship's
reason behind
depth.
their impending divorce
I observed
was
her as she
undoubtedly
spoke,
clear.
her beauty still
I
captivating
pondered what
me.
Mrs. Walker's
After
friends
all,
and
she
family
was the
would think
woman
of her
I
affair
cherished
with
for
an
so
older man.
long,
In
envisioning a
recognition of my
future of
efforts,
growing old together.
I was rewarded with a
But
brand
now,
new
those plans,
Land Rover
those
Discovery
dreams, lay
HSE.
shattered.
Although
the
I had
end
contemplated
commence.
treating myself
Now,
beforehand,
April, I need
Robert
to tell you
and the
something,
executives
and I need
were
you to
so
listen
pleased
carefully.
with my
I
performance
began.
and the
I know your
company's
lover's name is
trajectory
Carl Cummings,
that
a
they
junior
bestowed
associate
upon me
at
the
Lincoln,
car,
Rice &
along with a
Holmes.
substantial
I know all
commission,
about him, including your
surpassing
2 meetings with him this
£30,000.
week. April appeared
Gazing out of my
surprised,
office
poised to
window at my new
respond,
car,
but I
was
motioned for
taken
her to
aback
remain
when a
silent.
familiar Ford Focus
That's the issue.
pulled into the parking
You threatened
lot.
me with divorce.
I discovered the car
When I
belonged
expressed
to
my
Diane,
anger, you threatened
Holly's
to strip
mother.
away everything I have.
Anticipating an inevitable
I remember your
confrontation,
exact words
I
etched
braced
into my
myself
mind.
as my office
You
phone
said,
rang.
"I'll take everything you
my
have."
secretary, Freya,
You said more,
informed me
but those
that there
were the
was a
words
woman
that
claiming
lingered.
to be my
Words
wife in the
dripping with
reception.
contempt that
I
shattered
instructed
our
her to
marriage.
tell the woman that I
Those
was in a
were the
meeting
words that
and
pushed
that I
me
would
into
be
a
down
corner
in an hour.
where I felt I had
3
no
hours
choice
later,
but to watch
I
you
glanced out the
engage in
window to find her
closeness
still
with another
waiting.
man.
With a sigh,
I told you the
decided
following
to leave
night
for
that
the
cornered
night,
rats
prepared
fight
to
back.
confront her if necessary,
Now, I
or
could
simply
see the
drive
initial
past if she
flickers
didn't
of
spot
fear and
me.
discomfort on her
Exiting
face.
through a side door,
She wasn't certain
I headed
what lay
toward my
ahead,
car.
but she was
As I was
savvy enough
about
to
get
realize
in,
it
I
wouldn't
heard
be to her
tires
liking.
screech, and
Her
before I
shoulders
knew it,
tensed,
she had
and she
blocked me in with
instinctively
her
withdrew
car.
her head in defense.
Stepping out, she stormed toward
I
me
know
with
you told
fury
Robin that I
evident in
never
her
made you
disheveled
feel the way you
appearance.
felt with him,
Clearly
that you were
distressed
his
and clad in
mistress,
worn-out
I
clothes
continued.
that appeared to be her
I
sister's.
don't regret that this
Her
will end in a
unkempt
manner
hair added to her
unfavorable to
disarray.
you. However,
"You
Mr.
damn
Cummings has
idiot,"
been
she
explicitly
screamed,
informed that his
attempting to slap
involvement
me
with
but
you is
missing her
over.
mark.
He'll
Fueled
never
by
see you
rage,
again or
she
engage in
demanded
any further
retribution.
closeness with you.
Urging her to
Never.
calm down,
He
I
was also
invited her to sit
cautioned
in the
against
car with
any
me.
contact with my
Surprised
sons,
by the sight of the
to
new
which he
car,
agreed.
she expressed
Watching
her
her
financial
face register
struggles
shock and
pleaded
disbelief,
for my
I
return.
proceeded.
I informed
I'll
her that
initiate
since I
divorce
couldn't fulfill her
proceedings citing
needs
infidelity
and didn't
with
match
no
up to her
spousal
younger
support for
lovers,
you.
I felt
Child
redundant
support will
in
be
her life.
provided for my
She then
sons,
pleaded for
ensuring
me to
they
come
lack
home,
nothing as long as you
expressing
fulfill
a
your
desire
duties.
to move past
I'll
the
ensure you have
situation
the means,
and forgiving
but you'll
me.
need to work for your own
I
desires.
couldn't believe my ears
I'll handle the
and asked
paperwork,
if she was
and you'll
kidding.
be served.
She
April
affirmed that
rose,
she forgave me
anger
for
evident
wrecking
on
her
her
things
face.
and her life.
You're delusional if you think
Questioning
I'll
her
agree to
forgiveness,
this, and
I
I'll take
pointed out the
everything
open
you
cheating,
have just as I
disrespect,
promised.
and
She
her
retorted,
nerve to claim
still
forgiveness.
defiant, despite her
I
fear.
stated firmly
She
that I
intended
would
to
never
bluff
be with
until
her
the
again,
very end,
and
as
coldly
she had
suggested she
strategized.
go be with one of her lovers.
Why don't you call your Mr.
She
Cummings right
mentioned
now?
that her
Let's
friends
see his
treated her
response.
differently
Oh,
now that they
wait,
were separated,
I believe you might need
and
to
their
dial the
husbands
hospital.
questioned their
That
fidelity.
call I received earlier
While
informed
acknowledging
me
some
he's in the emergency
responsibility
room
for
at
her
Memorial.
misfortunes,
I
still
presume the news has
sympathized
reached
with
you
her.
by now. Use
She
my
admitted
phone.
to facing
I already have his
consequences
number.
for her actions,
April
having
gazed at me in
squandered a
shock.
good life due to
What have
greed
you
and
done?
disrespect.
What happened to Carl?
Despite
oh my
this,
God,
I knew I had
Chris,
to move
what did you
forward.
do?
She pleaded
Why,
for me to
April?
come back into her
Are you
life,
seriously
claiming
asking
to
me?
have nothing left.
I've been here at home with you
She
all
inquired
evening,
about
and I
her
was at
share of
work
the
earlier,
house
so
and
I
mentioned
couldn't
her
have done
need for a
anything to anyone.
divorce.
Why do you think I
pointed
did
out
something?
that she had never
Why would I
once
even
said she
think
loved
to injure
me,
your lover?
stating that she
You
just
made it abundantly
needed me,
clear that
but
I
didn't
should
need
steer
her.
clear of this
I
situation. It's
disclosed
none
that
of
I
my
had
concern.
defaulted on the mortgage
My
and lost
demeanor
the house,
surely frightened
admitting
April.
to lying.
She had never seen me
Her
like
reaction
this.
was one of
I
shock,
was typically calm
and I
and
understood
passive,
the purpose of
never
her visit.
causing injury to anyone.
Declaring my
I
desire
wouldn't even
for a
discipline the
divorce,
children
she
physically,
pleaded
leaving that to
desperately,
her.
claiming to love me.
Now, she viewed
After
me
over
differently.
20 years together,
My expression
she
was
pleaded,
cold and
acknowledging
stern,
a mistake
my eyes
and
devoid of
claiming
emotion.
severe punishment.
April entered the next
I
room,
emphasized
and
that
I
it was a
overheard her
huge,
speaking on the phone.
unforgivable mistake.
She returned with tears in
stating
her eyes,
firmly
collapsing into
that
a
I would
chair and
never
staring
return
into the
to her.
distance.
She
I
screamed
remained
and begged,
composed,
filling
picking
the
up
car
the
with her
newspaper.
cries.
I knew what she
Offering
had
a
heard on the
proposition,
phone.
I
Her lover
suggested
was
a
ending
clean
things
break
with her,
and offered
faced with the choice of
£30,000
that or
in cash
enduring a
if she
smacking
agreed.
each time he
Her
encountered
demeanor
her.
changed, and
That
she
was the
became
ultimatum
resolute.
delivered to
She
him by
yelled,
3 imposing
threatening
men
to
who
fight me in
intercepted
court
him
for
as he left
everything,
work earlier.
asserting that I didn't
They
lose
made
the
it
house
clear why
and
they
was too
targeted
smart
him
for
and
that.
what repercussions
Acknowledging
awaited
her
if he dared
correctness,
to see or
I
speak
found
to April
myself
again.
on the defensive.
They ensured he
I
fully
started by
comprehended the
stating
message.
firmly that she
April
wouldn't
dried her
get a
tears,
penny from me.
took a deep breath,
She squared
and
up to
addressed
me,
me.
and I
Well,
explained
it
that I
seems
would
you've
fight
gotten
her
your
for
way.
everything and
Carl
more.
informed me he never
I
wants
asserted
to
that
see
she
me
had no
again.
money,
He mentioned
and
that
I
all
would
my
move my
belongings will
assets
be
around
returned
to
to
make
me,
it
and he has
difficult
no
for her to
desire to
track them
communicate
down.
with me.
I warned her
In
that
that
by the
case, you
time
have
her
nothing
lawyer
to fret
found
over.
anything,
I have
the
legal
bill would wipe out
representation,
any
so they
gain.
will handle
I
everything
gave her a
swiftly.
choice to take
I
the money
responded,
offered or
setting
face
the
the
newspaper
consequences
aside
of
and
a legal
rising to
battle,
depart.
never breaking
I'll
eye
speak with the
contact.
boys this
She
weekend and
exclaimed
explain why we're
angrily,
divorcing.
expressing love
Perhaps
and
they're
accusing me
mature
of
enough to
mistreatment.
grasp the
She
situation.
continued,
If not, they'll
stating that
eventually
thanks to
understand
her,
as they grow
our
older.
girls would thrive,
As I made my
contrasting their
exit,
future
I glanced
virtues
back to
with
see
her
April
perceived
sobbing.
shortcomings. I
If
told
I
her to
recall
take the
your
money
words
and get out of
correctly,
my
April,
life, and she
you once
spat
claimed
back,
this affair would
agreeing
be
to take the money
short-lived
and
and we
proceed
could
with
return
the
to
divorce.
normalcy. I
I
chuckled
responded
bitterly.
that I would arrange
You're
it,
still
and she
young and
exited my
attractive,
car,
April.
slamming the door
Maybe
shut.
you'll find someone willing to
Moments
indulge
later,
your
she
fantasies.
sped away from the car
Someone
park.
open to
The
an
following day,
unconventional
I
marriage,
initiated
allowing you to
divorce
pursue
proceedings,
multiple partners.
citing
That
infidelity
wasn't
as
me,
the grounds.
but that's just my
A
perspective.
week later, I
Best of
arranged a
luck.
meeting with Holly at the
Children
girls'
may not
apartment.
comprehend this, but adults
Despite the
must face the
completed sale of my
consequences of
house,
their actions.
I postponed
and those
investing until the
consequences can
papers
be
were
harsh.
signed.